life. Now, this next guy is Allan, and he is awesome. He is the self-proclaimed pool guy. You can just ask him yourself, and he has ups and downs in business, but he says that is what has helped him innovate his company and how that's helped him make ways and boundaries in the innovation of the things that he has done with pools. And for him, we get to hear him talk about how refreshing your perspective can create a new attitude and direction in your life and business. So everyone, give it up for Allan.
Baby. Thought I'd start by telling you about myself and what I do. He did that for me. I'm a pool guy. So let's move past that. And I want to start by telling you there's 3 things I want you to learn from me today. We have a word, but there's 3 specific things I hope you get out of this. So to start, I was 3 years old. And I met a little boy. If he was here today, his name was Mo Benda. If he was here today, this is how he would tell the story. He would say that the first memory he has in his life was 3 seconds before he met me. He was standing at our front door, holding onto his mom's skirt, scared to death, and his mom was knocking on the door, saying, "It's okay, Mo, you're going to meet a little boy today." We met, became best friends right away, very early on. And so for the couple years there, what do you do at 3, 4, and 5 years old? We were just kind of figuring out life together. But at 5 years old, we both recognized something, that we would fight. What do you fight about at 5? I don't know, but we were fighting. And we realized that if we fought, we didn't get to hang out together very much because our little 5-year-old egos got in the way. We were 5 and we were going to be tough. So we came up with a plan at 5. And I remember the first time that I used this tactic, and we had decided that when we were fighting, whoever felt anxious or was mad would stop and say, "Oh, we're just play fighting." And then we'd pretend to hit each other like little kids. 48 years later, we still talk every day. I'm from Michigan. He lives in northern Minnesota. He lives farther from me there than you guys live here. We're that far apart, but we talk every day. We meet several times a year. Lesson number 1, learn to play fight. If relationships are important to you and you really want something that's going to last, you have to get your ego out of the way. And the easiest way to get your ego out of the way is play fight. Find a way. Whatever it is, find a way. A few years go on, and we're probably, I don't know that you guys are good with numbers and timelines and everyone's using dates. I have no idea. It was about 10 years old. We were at his family cottage, and I wasn't a very strong swimmer. Now, my sister and I were both there. She's a little bit older than me, and Mo and Sue were swimming in the deeper part of the lake, and I was in the shallow part of the lake. And I was a little boy kind of afraid of my own shadow. But I had goggles and a mask on, and I was looking at fish, and I got all excited following these fish in the water and lost track of where I was. By the time I looked up, I realized I was too far out, tried to put my foot down. There was no ground. I panicked. Now, my word today is rebirth. You would think that that's what this is going to be about. Rebirth is something else to me. But I, in fact, drowned and was pulled back out of the water and given CPR and brought back. Whole really cool experience now because of the whole out of body. It's a great story. I can't tell you that story today, though. But if you ask me during the break, I'll gladly tell you the story about that. But what I took from that experience as a 10-year-old boy is something that I bet all of you have in your life and maybe have dealt with and maybe not. Shame and guilt. I spent the next many years of my life full of shame. Because when I was there, someone would say, "Well, who are you?" And I'd say who I was. They go, "Oh, you're the little boy that drowned." So I carried this anchor around my neck for so long that I was that little boy that was too dumb, not good enough, not capable enough, that I couldn't even swim. There must be something, I'm broken. There must be something wrong with me. So I spent all that time, all of these great years of my life worrying about it. But here's what happened. I started self-discovery, the process of learning who I was as a human being by introspection. You guys here are all really good at introspection, and you're getting there, and you're growing, and you're changing. Most of the world never chooses to go inside. They always look at the outside as to what's wrong. I finally looked inside. And what I recognized was, I am not what's happened to me. That's a huge thing. We talk about an impact. A rebirth in my life was, I am not what's happened to me in my life. I'm me. That's something that happened. So that is lesson number 2. You are not what's happened to you. Third story. This happened just this past week. I have been fortunate enough to live a really yummy life. Really a best life type of scenario. Just as much as we go through the chaos that Brett talked about, the chaos and order, I would look at my life and go, wow, it's amazing. Things happen, of course, but I've had this amazing life. This week, on Wednesday, something happened for me that has fundamentally shifted me yet again. It started last Friday when a guy started calling our office. We're in the pool business, but for wintertime, we're in the north where you don't work much in the winter, so we started flipping houses. We started doing something. We have this crew of amazing people, but we needed something for them to do. So we bought a few houses, and we still have a few inventory houses that are pretty rough. And when you walk through them, you go, ooh, geez, I don't know. We decided, well, this one's a little too far from our home base. Let's just sell it. If we just sell it, then someone else can deal with it. So this past one, this guy's just calling last Friday, and he calls through the weekend, Monday, Tuesday. He wants this house, and he wants to buy it on Wednesday. Not your typical real estate transaction, you get it? And this isn't a very expensive house, but he's got enough money for the deposit. We decide to sell it on land contract so he can pay it over time. And he's meeting me, in all places, a Menards parking lot. It's like 25 degrees out. It's cold. And we're standing on the hood of my old beat-up pickup truck, signing the documents for him to buy this. It's him, his wife, and 4 children. And there are these 4 kids in the car, screaming, bouncing. The whole car's vibrating. It's crazy. And they are so excited. She's just thrilled. Now, I know what this house is, and it's really bad from my perspective. My very middle class, upper middle class, this is like a bad place to live. But what I recognized after this happened was this family, they were in the early 30s. They were living in a camper, 2 adults and 4 children in a small camper, and it was 22 degrees out that morning. And all they have to look forward to is the winter. So to me, when I looked at that home and I saw that really crappy kitchen, and oh my goodness, you wouldn't even want to think of eating off of that. To her, she had a kitchen for her family. She had somewhere that she could prepare food for her children. She had a place. And as I drove away from that experience, I had this overwhelming feeling of, Al, you gotta be more grateful. Grateful for what you have, and grateful what you don't have. Because if you don't have those, what do you have? So that's lesson number 3, is find a way in everything that happens to you to be grateful. So lesson number 1, remember, figure it out. Figure out how to play. Play fighting is great, because I'll tell you what, Mo called me this morning from Minnesota. Oh, what are you doing today? Well, I got this really cool place. I'm going this best life. He had no idea what I was going to talk about. But it was just that gentle reminder of what I was going to tell you about friendship, how much it mattered, because he even took the time to call this morning. It was 8 o'clock his time, 9 o'clock here. So number 1, learn to play fight. If a relationship matters to you, learn to play fight, because you can get past anything. Think about it. We're 5. Think about all those years, the next 15 years of teenage and anxiousness and girlfriends and marriage and children and all that anxiety that happens and life is just pouring over you. We figured our way through because we learned how to play fight. Number one. Number two, you are not what has happened to you. The shame and the guilt that you carry is something that you end up choosing to carry. You don't have to. Great lesson there. Reality is not reality. This is an Allism. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone else say this, but it works for me in my head. Maybe you won't get it. Reality is not reality. You hear it all the time. Perception's reality. That is not true either. Perception is not reality. It's the emotion that you attach to the perception that is the reality. So this thing happens to me. I perceive it as one thing, but then the feelings that I come from are what become real to me. The shame, the guilt, the not good enough, the not strong enough, the not stuff in my life. I change those feelings, which change the perception, which changes the reality. So number two, you are not what's happened to you. And third and finally, always be grateful. There is nothing in this world that won't fix it more than gratitude. Thank you.